Welcome to another video by your friend, Matthew Sherling. If you have never checked out any of my videos, I recommend that you go check out some of my playlists on YouTube. I have a podcast called The Infinite Weird, and I released a new episode with philosopher Matt Siegel, who is a Alfred North Whitehead scholar. And that was very fun. I have lots of episodes of the podcast. I have a playlist called Thoughts on Spirituality and Philosophy. I have this playlist where I talk about the tarot cards, the major arcana cards, and I have a reading aloud series where I read some of my favorite passages or poems from the books that I love. But today, on this video, I am going to be talking about the Tower card, because that is where I have found myself. In the order of the major arcana cards, I did the Devil card last time. And we're going in order here. We're going in order. And so I've made videos on all the previous cards leading up to the Tower card. And the Tower card is card 16. The Devil card comes before this one. And you should check out the other videos if you're interested. And even if you really want to be linear about it, then you should maybe check them out before this one. Okay, so this bad boy, the Tower card. You got a crown popping off the top of the tower. The tower is on fire. The two figures are falling from the tower. It seems pretty jarring. It seems pretty disturbing. It's disruptive is probably a good word for it. And lightning is striking the top of the tower, and that has presumably caused the figures to get ejected from the tower. So, in the previous card, we have the Devil, right? And the two figures, which I equate with these two figures, you have a masculine and feminine figure here. And you had those two figures in the Devil card, and the Devil was sitting on a box, and the two figures were chained to that box. And those two figures kind of call back to the Lover's card, which is card 6 in the major arcana. And yeah, before this, you have the Lover's card, card 6, and then you have the Devil card, card 15, and then you have this card. Those are the three cards so far in the major arcana that have both a masculine and feminine character. And, the other cards generally have one or the other, or a more androgynous character. So, in the previous card, in the Devil card, they are chained to the Devil's box, and they have chains around their necks. They have chains around their necks, and the chains are pretty loose. It's clear that they could grab those chains and take the chain off of their neck. So there is this implication or suggestion that this imprisonment that they find themselves in, chained to the Devil's box, is somehow self-imposed, and they could release themselves from that. As C.S. Lewis famously said, the gates of hell are locked from the inside. Meaning, we can unlock them ourselves. It's a self-imposed imprisonment, self-imposed restriction. And the Devil is an archetype in the tarot that represents many things, including the things that hold us back, the things that hold us down, the things that we're scared to look at, the habits or patterns that keep us chained or keep us restricted. And it kind of confronts us with our own agency or lack thereof, And it comes later in this whole fool's journey. So you would imagine that the fool has kind of evolved out of those sorts of imprisonments. But you know what? The shadow work never goes away. The shadow work is always there. We always need to do work on ourselves. We always have patterns and habits that we can look at more honestly and deprogram ourselves of, or release ourselves from. And so there's always material to work with. There's always strengths and weaknesses, blind spots and liberations, all that sort of thing. So in this card, though, I interpret it as they have released themselves from the chains of the devil's box. And this release from that, it's not chill, it's not blissful, it's disturbing, it's disruptive, it's jarring, it's uncomfortable. And that makes sense, right? Because, perhaps part of the reason why they keep themselves in that state of imprisonment is that they feel like it's comfortable, right? We keep ourselves in a small box, in small boxes. Part of the reason why we keep ourselves limited and keep ourselves in static habits and a lack of expansion, a lack of novelty, a lack of breaking outside into new territory, all that stuff. Part of the reason why we do that is because we have convinced ourselves that it's more comfortable that way. We're scared of the unknown. We're scared of discomfort. We're scared of things being unexpected. We like to know what to expect. And our comfortable, seemingly cozy routines and mental habits and ways of thinking about ourselves and others in the world, those patterns make us feel like we know what's going on. We have something to cling on to. We know what to expect. There's not some surprise popping out, right? But in this card represents the process or the act of releasing ourselves from that comfort. And it's a necessary thing, and it's ultimately a positive thing, but it's not a comfortable thing. And they're flying out of this tower, and they're going to, hit the rocky land and have to rebuild from there, So this this card kind of represents a process of clearing out, dislodging, deprogramming, and releasing from the ways that we have been caught inside of up to this point. You know what I mean? And, so some people say that this is like an epiphany card with the lightning bolt. It's kind of like a light bulb moment. It's like an epiphany. It's a paradigm shift. You could see the crown as related to like the crown chakra. So it's kind of like busting the crown off. And so I like this card. I mean, it's not, if you look at it, it can kind of make you feel disturbed if you pull it in a reading or something. But I interpret it as ultimately a positive thing. And the card after this is the Star card, and that's like the opposite of this vibe, because the Star card is very peaceful and still and relaxed and free, and it's like a reprieve or a relief from this. So, as I said, to me, the keywords that are the most useful here for this card are liberation, emancipation, epiphany, paradigm shift, release. And so it's a stage of being willing. Maybe it's intentional. Maybe it's something that a circumstance or a situation or a moment or a period of time in our lives that we either willingly or unwillingly are forced to reevaluate and kind of create new patterns and work from kind of more of a cleared out space. And that can be scary because we feel like we have to kind of like start from scratch, right? But I think that's, it can be exciting. It can be experimental. It can be generative. And the shadow side of this, the way that I've been kind of mapping out these cards recently is like keywords are important, symbolism is important, getting a sense of where the card falls in line of the whole trajectory of the major arcana, and then also the shadow side, because every single card has a shadow side, right? So the shadow side of this card would be the fact that going through this process can be uncomfortable, and it can cause suffering, and it can cause uncertainty, and it can feel like there's not a solid ground anymore because the solid ground that we had gets pulled from us. And so that's the shadow side, is that sometimes it's hard to navigate that sort of process. But that process is useful, important, necessary even. And so I hope that gave you a little bit of, some food for thought about ways to interpret this card. And I just want to emphasize as I end this video that, to me, there's a million different ways to interpret every single card, right? And just like with anything, when it comes to me, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to spiritual systems, when it comes to, practices that we have, all that sort of thing, to me, it's all about finding what resonates with you, what's useful to you, what actually helps you out. If tarot doesn't interest you and it doesn't seem like, if it doesn't do anything for you, then it's probably not something that you should pay much attention to. For me, I had some friends who had tarot cards when I was younger, like early college and stuff. And they did some readings for me, and it was kind of interesting, but I never really thought much about it at all. I didn't gravitate toward it. But there was a certain point about 4 years ago where I just organically gravitated toward it, as well as other things like it. And all of a sudden, it felt very exciting. It felt like something that could teach me. It felt like something I could integrate into my life. And by studying these cards and looking at the symbolism and looking at what they might represent for my own awakenings and transformation and obstacles and difficulties and all that stuff, like it was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like that's the way I feel about it. So there's that, as well as, when it comes to each card, even if you are drawn to the tarot already and you're trying to kind of just like get a better sense of your understanding of each card and of, each suit, or the major arcana, the minor arcana, and all the different, types of cards in the tarot. I think it's best to just, it's good to read books about it. It's good to watch videos about it. It's good to learn from people who know a lot about it, for sure. But when you start doing that, you start to realize that there are several different interpretations of each card. And, there are some like keywords that you will hear that are shared among different interpretations. There's kind of like certain themes that each card kind of like just commonly or archetypally represents. But even some of the tarot folks that I love so much, sometimes their kind of like sense of a certain card, I'll be like, whoa, no, that doesn't really work for me much at all. So, embrace your own intuition, embrace your own obsessions, embrace your own, meaning making sensibilities, and like, follow the stuff that speaks to you, that connects to you, and discard the stuff that doesn't. That's what I would say about that. So until next time, peace out.